good.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the 4th episode of the 1717 show. As you can tell, we have a new person on the show. Our
Special
first
guest.
I'm special, but
Evan Hinson. Evan is a dear friend of mine, and he was gracious enough to come on the show. And while you're on the show, what are you going to talk about today, Evan?
I'm on the show because I just drove 15 minutes and I'm here.
Yeah?
That's pretty much it. No, I think you asked me to be on the show just because of the story that God gave me a while back, and hopefully I can portray that to people in a good way.
God gave you a good gift of Fortnite.
That's what it is.
That's why we're here
That
now.
is.
Evan does have an incredible story that happened almost a year ago. We're almost at a 1-year anniversary. That's kind of crazy to think about.
Time goes fast, man.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it does.
And so this is actually new for you, Joe, because you've never heard
Yeah,
it. You barely even
I've
know
never
Evan.
heard this story. Yeah, I
And-
met Evan a couple months
You've
ago.
never heard this?
No,
Oh, that's gonna be good.
not really.
All right.
I mean, I've been hearing bits and pieces around,
Okay.
but
Okay.
So yeah, let's get right into it.
Okay.
This is going to be different because we've never done like question interview style. It's usually just us goofing around.
yeah.
So it'll be a learning.
Hence your blonde hair.
It's still blonde. Still
swear.
blonde.
If you're watching this video, you need to go look at the penguin from Happy Feet. There's a penguin that looks just like his hair. Okay.
The
anyways.
one that has the rocks.
Yes.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes. If somehow we could pop that up on the screen. Okay.
Pop it up.
You're the editor. You can do whatever you want.
Sounds like we have a new host for the show. Evan's a natural at this.
He's taking over, guy.
I've watched the videos, man. I support.
Yeah.
I subscribe, even though you think I don't.
All right. Let's get serious.
Okay.
Enough goofing around. We've goofed around for 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
Evan, tell us about your life a year ago before this whole thing happened. What were you doing? Were you in school? Were you working? Like CrossFit? I know you were big into that. Like, what was your life like before everything kind of went down?
Yeah. So luckily I wasn't in school at the time. I was taking a semester off just because my major at Columbus State is a pretty small department, and so if you don't really get a class, there's not a second option. You just got to wait another semester, a year to get it.
Yeah.
And so I didn't get
Columbus
the
State for you, right?
Yeah.
CSU quality.
So I didn't get some of the classes I needed, so I just kind of took the semester off, and I was working and doing DJ stuff and working at a physical therapy clinic and a bunch of little things that I've always done. And that was kind of just my life at the time. I was, like you said, I was really into CrossFit, and I was working out a ton, like I always have. Actually, before we get into it, the weekend before the weekend of my accident, I was at a CrossFit competition in Birmingham. So it's like,
I didn't know that.
yeah. So
That's
it's
insane.
It's not like I was sitting at home and then.
Yeah.
So like literally 5 days before I was kind of pushing it, and so the question comes up of like, why didn't it happen then instead of like when I was just kind of walking around later.
Yeah.
But before I wasn't in school. I was working. Everything was good. Didn't feel any different than before. So yeah, you want me to talk about like my spiritual life also?
I mean, yeah. You can,
Okay,
if you
all
want.
right.
How was that?
I felt at a time that I was moving along well. I've always felt a sense of complacency just because of like being in Columbus. Once you get so familiar with a place and you live there so long, there's always a sense of like, what else is out there, or is there more for me type deal. So that was always in the back of my head, and so complacency was always kind of like right there on the cusp of like dealing or battling with my faith. And so I feel like that's where I was at. I wasn't running from God. I wasn't trying to push God away, but I also wasn't like trying to seek Him in every moment.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It also kind of, when you're comfortable, especially growing up in the same city, living here, it's so easy to be stagnant in your faith when you're just do the same thing, you know?
Yeah.
But anyways, I've been thinking of the best way to just like jump into like what
story.
happened.
Yeah.
It's just
So I've thought of the best way.
backflip right into
What
it.
happened?
Yeah. Just start from the
That's a
beginning.
good
Yeah,
question.
no, I mean, I don't want to like say anything to spoil it to the people watching, but from your perspective, kind of what went down last December.
Okay. Well, so just a little starter. My perspective wasn't really. I didn't really have a perspective through this, which has kind of been the hardest thing. So everything that I've learned has come from, obviously the people that I'm the closest with. So my mom, my dad, my sisters, best friends, stuff like that. They've kind of just relayed information about what happened, and obviously my sister Haley was posting stuff on Facebook. So I took a couple months before I went back and read all that, but eventually I did read it, and so it kind of caught up on some details and stuff like that. So
yeah. Well, from what you know,
okay,
tell us.
So I know a good bit. So we'll start off. So December 8th last year, it almost be a year. I was just, like I said, I had done a CrossFit competition the week before. I felt great, whatever. So moving on through the week to Friday, I work at the physical therapy clinic on Fridays, and I just was working that morning and then got off. Later on, we were doing DJ stuff. I was helping set up, and my buddy that was working with me just said, I put my hand over my heart, and I was like, oh crap. And I just fell over. I hit like right here on like the corner of like a speaker case that we had, and I was just out. And he said I started like seizuring and stuff like that. And luckily he knew CPR. And the cool thing was he didn't need to know CPR. He had no prior requirement to know CPR. He just felt one day he would need it, and like, man,
that's insane.
So he knew CPR. So he one guy called 911. He did CPR. He held me over. I think it took less than 10 minutes for them to get there. They got there. They took me off. He said it was like snap of a finger, I was gone. So that was like when it happened, first instance. And so what I was told is that, phone calls started coming through. My dad lives 3.5 hours away, so it took him a while to get there. But people were just calling around saying Evan fell, Evan passed out, he's in the ER. That's all we know, type stuff. And so there were a lot of questions of like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Like, people were like, oh, he just, he might have been pushing himself working out. Like, people pass out, it's okay. They didn't know the severity of it when they got there. So,
and you were taken to Piedmont, right?
I was taken to, it's called, Midtown Medical.
When it happened, it was Midtown, but not.
Right, now it's Piedmont. Yeah. That was a little weird for people to understand, too.
Yeah.
Hospitals, man, they're weird. But I was taken, called Midtown Medical, Piedmont now. And a lot of people were asking, like, why didn't you go to St. Francis? It was actually closer to go to St. Francis where I was. That was kind of cool that I found out. But good thing the firefighters knew this, because when they took me, apparently Midtown Medical has better resources for like cardiac heart patients than St. Francis. I don't know for sure. Don't if you're watching this and you're like, no, I work at St. Francis. Like, oh my god, don't scowl me, please. But that's just what I heard. That might be totally wrong. But anyways, I went there. I'm sorry. So I went there, and I was in the ER there, and like I said, I don't know exactly what happened, which is probably good, because I'd probably be crying this entire time if I did. But basically they were like, my heart just stopped, and once your heart stops, kind of everything else stops, and the blood to your rest of your body stops, your brain function stops, everything. And so what they had told my mom is that it's called heart lining, where basically you have a heartbeat and then it just stops. And like, if you watch like Grey's Anatomy or something like that, all you see is just a line. And that's kind of what happened like four times over and over. And so basically they're like, your son or your brother like died basically 4 times in the ambulance. And so they're like, we brought him back and he died again. He brought him back, died again. So that happened in the ambulance and in the ER. And they're like, we don't know how to keep him from stop heart lining. We don't know what to do right now.
Insane.
And they said that like my ejection fraction, which is basically the efficiency of how your heart works, it runs at a typical like 55%. Mine was down to like less than 10. And so it was not looking good. And so they were like, it's really low. He's not getting any blood supply to his brain. Like, if he makes it, he might not have any brain function, which is like one of the scariest things I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, for sure.
And so they were like, we don't know what to do. And so the doctor, all in all, to kind of give you the severity of things, the doctor came to my mom in the emergency room, and he was like, Miss Melanie, I don't want to be the one to tell you this, but there's only 3 options that are probably going to occur here. It's like your son is probably not going to make it in the next 5 minutes. He'll make it in the next 5 minutes, but we probably won't make it overnight. And then the third one is, or your son will make a full recovery. So 2 of those 3 were not looking so hot. And but obviously we were banking on the third one.
Yeah.
And we had people praying, all over Columbus, all over the Southeast. There are people in Alaska that I know from CrossFit that were praying. Other gyms across the U.S. are praying, and found out that kids in Kenya that I got to go visit were praying, and it was really cool to hear that when I eventually woke up. But so it was just one of those things where Midtown Medical they eventually lacked the resources to keep like trying to figure out, okay, we don't have what we need to like completely fix this. Like we can sustain life, but we can't do what we need to do. And so I was put in an ambulance that next night. I think it was that Saturday night. I was put in an ambulance, but and I was flown in the snow, which is weird because like it's Atlanta, like it's not like it's Michigan where it's just. But it was snowing really bad, and
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was put in the ambulance. I was flown up to Atlanta to a hospital up there, and then I stayed there for I think a night or a day, where they put me on. I was put on a number of things. While I was in the helicopter, I was on the Arctic Sun, which is basically just a way of keeping your body like freezing cold, because my body couldn't sustain anything for me, and so they had to preserve my organs and all that, so they had to keep it cold, and so they put like ice packs all over my body while I was in the helicopter to basically just hold me over, hopefully, until I got to the hospital up in Atlanta. So that was the Arctic Sun. They had to put a heart pump in me, and then eventually the doctors decided up in Atlanta that they were going to do something called an ECMO. And this was like the big thing that I heard about when I woke up. Like everybody was talking about ECMO. I'm like, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
And later on, obviously I was laying in bed like months later. I was like, okay, I'm going to Google ECMO and see what it is. And basically it's like it's meant for infants. So when they come out of the womb, a lot of babies have problems of supplying oxygen to themselves, and their blood supply isn't that great, and they're having problem breathing, all this kind of stuff. So ECMO is where they kind of run a tube out of out of mine was kind of like my upper leg, kind of like hip area, and it's called I think it's the femoral artery, which pumps a lot of blood to the bottom half of your body, and basically they run a tube out to a machine. The machine oxygenates the blood and runs it back in, and it supplies it to the rest of the body. And so so basically that's what they did. They cut like a big incision, probably about this big, up in my hip area, and they ran a big tube out that oxygenated blood and had other blood donated that was the same type, obviously, to mix with, and then put it back in my body to oxygenate it. And that was kind of last resort. They're like, if this works, great. If it doesn't, there's really no other option.
Right.
It was kind of just all or nothing. And within like a day, my EF for my ejection fraction went from 10% all the way up to 45. And they were like, holy cow, this is incredible.
Yeah.
One, it's incredible that it's working. 2, it's incredible that it's working this fast. And so from there, it was just time. We were just waiting. They said that I was coming back to it, and my heart was working fine. And they were able to take me off ECMO, take me really off pretty much everything, and my ejection fraction was up to 50%. It was almost good. It's they were telling my parents that after they took me off ECMO, it never happened. That was the words that they used, was it's basically your son never came in here.
That's insane.
And blood pressure was normal, all kinds of stuff. It was crazy. So I was in a coma for a couple days, and they tried to bring me out of a coma, and I had my mom describes it as I rose out of the dead. I just sat up, and I was gasping for air, my eyes rolled back in my head, and I was pulling all the wires off of me and She said she had to leave the room because it was like one of the scariest things she'd
Yeah.
seen. And there were like nurses pushing me back down, and so like there's a picture of me with like restraints over my wrists and legs. I'm like, why in the world? Like, I can't run away. I'm in a coma.
Yeah.
They're like, well, you try to come out of it, and they said the second time I tried to come out of it, and I tried to get out of bed, and I tried to like get up and walk. And
Do you remember that?
I don't.
You don't
Yeah,
remember
it's.
that?
I wish I did. That'd be kind of funny, but. Yeah, they said like try to get out of bed and stuff, and so they like pushed me back down and all that. So that's why I had the restraints. And
Yeah.
so the third time they're like, all right, we're just gonna wait for Evan to decide
Yeah.
when he needs to wake up, which is accurate because of my stubbornness. But so they just kind of waited for me to wake up, and I did, and I kind of came out of it. And when I woke up, I turned to my right, and my mom was right there, and she was like, Evan, like. I mean, she was crying. She told me that she loved me and all kinds of stuff. And I was like, what happened? And they were like, it's your heart. Like, they said it was something with your heart.
So when you woke up there, that was the first time you were consciously aware that something happened.
Yeah.
Since you fell.
Yeah, right.
And
like-
how long was that since?
That was about a week.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
were completely unconscious for a week, basically.
Yeah, I think I woke up on that next Friday or Saturday.
Wow.
Dang.
Yeah.
What do you remember your first when your mom told you that? What was your first?
Yeah, what's going through your head? What was the first
I know there
thing?
probably wasn't much reaction, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was just, I just woke up from like being out of it for a week, but I was like,
Yeah.
what? My heart? Like, what are you talking about? And then obviously, like, I went straight to like, I was like, Mom, like, nobody in our family has heart problems. What are you talking about? Are you sure? Like, this is my heart? Like, I do CrossFit and work out and like stuff like that. And then my first thing was like guilt. Like, it was almost like embarrassment. Like, every time somebody came in and they would say something like, you're the strongest person I know. I'm like, well, clearly not. I'm laying in a hospital bed.
Yeah.
Like, it was a little bit of embarrassment to where like people look at me as I'm supposed to be this fit and shaped person, and here I am laying in a hospital bed due to my heart, which has all kinds of reasons why it might not work. But
Yeah.
you're like, okay, if somebody's fit, like they shouldn't have heart problems. And so that was a big like. I was like, oh man, like how am I supposed to explain to people, especially as a CrossFit coach, like how am I supposed to show people that you can be in shape, and then all of a sudden I get in.
You have a heart attack if you do CrossFit?
Yeah,
What?
yeah, exactly.
So when you woke up, at that point you already had your defibrillator on your heart and everything.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I woke up, it was like I had a tube in my mouth, I had like tubes in my nose, like I had like these things in my hand, like over my hands, because when I woke up from the coma, I was grabbing like cords and stuff, so they had to put like these, like the old time like whoopee cushions. Remember those that you sit on? It was like a blue whoopee cushion that they put over my hand.
Like an up mitt?
But it was like filled with air, so I wouldn't. So I wouldn't be able to like grab things and stuff like that.
That's hilarious.
That's the first thing that just came to my head when I thought
You're
of that. It doesn't make that kind of sound though. But yeah, stuff like that, and I was like, obviously I was like freezing cold, and dude, I looked down at my feet and I couldn't move my legs, and like I couldn't move my arms. This is like right when I woke up. Obviously I got a little better, but I was like looking at my arms, and I couldn't even like move my fingers. I couldn't speak, and like it was hard to breathe.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what in the world has happened to me, man? And I thought it was over. I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna be paralyzed, and like this is not good. And but the nurses were great. They're like, just give us some time. We'll be right here with you. And over time, like I got feelings back in my hands. Like for the first couple of days, people would walk in, and the only thing I could respond was like, okay, like yes or no questions. If
Right.
if you're okay,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
squeeze my hand, yes. And so I'd squeeze their hand, stuff like that. And then eventually it would take like, I'd have to like fill up all my lungs and like just to say like one word like hey or like I love you or something like that. It was just really hard, and it was weird. It was just like a feeling obviously I never want to feel again, but it was just a sense of like of humility and just of like, okay, like you're not all that you think you are. And
That's good.
and so within like a week, I stayed at the hospital another week just to kind of recover. I had like a therapist come in, teach me obviously like how to use a fork again to eat. Like it was crazy, man.
That's insane.
Like I mean, my physical therapist come in and just be like, all right, like we're gonna try to go walk. And I'd like get a walker and we try to go up the stairs and stuff like that. And
Was that hard for you? You're having to use a walker?
Yeah,
are you
walk.
kidding me, dude?
Relearn how to walk,
I've
yeah.
played like every
Yeah, I
sport
bet
known to
that,
man
yeah.
since I was 4, and I'm being taught how to walk down a hallway. And I'm 20. I was 23 at the time. Yeah, you talking about like beaten down, dude?
Yeah.
But it was like, my dad was like, this is just the way of the road. Like you just gotta be able to go through it, Evan. And he
Yeah.
was with me the whole time, and it was great. But I mean, it was really the hardest thing was like I can't even like use my fingers to pick up a fork. Like I was like trying to pick up a fork like this, like my thumb in the middle. I'm like, I've never grabbed
Like
a
a
fork
child.
like this in my life.
Yeah.
And I couldn't like lift it to my face. I was like spilling like some of the food I was eating. It was embarrassing.
Yeah.
So that's like people would have to like feed me and stuff. And yeah, dude, I had to like learn how to go to the bathroom and like my mom had to like brush my teeth and like wash my hair and
That's insane.
yeah, it was nuts.
Sheesh.
But luckily that only happened for like it got better a lot like fairly quickly.
Right.
How
And
long
what-
did it take to fully regain function?
It probably took a month for me to like comfortably be able to like, okay, I'm leaving the house and I'm good to go. Like I don't have to worry about
Yeah.
anything that's going to happen. And a couple of those were just like, the big chunk that they took in my leg from the ECMO. Like obviously it messed with like my hip flexion. So it was really hard to like walk. And the defibrillator that you're talking about was like the last thing I got in the hospital.
Okay.
Just because like the pain of like having a device in you and like moving around and all that, they didn't want me to like stay in the hospital, for days like that. So they're like, all right, this is the last thing we're gonna give you, and then you can go home and you can like recover in bed.
Now,
But-
what is that? Explain a little bit about what that is.
So a defibrillator is especially those pads that they put
Yeah.
on you. It shocks your heart, and so that's what I have on the side. It's probably about that big, and it's just a last resort. Like we don't know if it's going to happen again. We don't know why this happened in the first place. So we're just going to put you in this as just a first defense type
So
thing.
it's like in you.
Yeah, I mean it's
It's
yeah,
like
right
Tony
there.
Stark's heart, but it's
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
So like
Literally.
if your heart ever conks out again, they'll just.
It will.
Really?
It's
That's
like
insane.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So this is like the last thing they told me before they left. I was like, wait, am I gonna get like shocked? He's like, yeah, it's like a horse kicking you in the chest.
But it's better than
we
dying.
were like,
It is better than dying.
we were like, what? Like a horse? He's like, yeah, it's about equal to like a horse kicking you in the chest.
Oh
I
my
was like,
gosh.
great,
Okay,
thank
cool.
you. Don't anybody touch me ever.
It's like you're taking time, Bob, with
I
a
know.
horse.
So
gonna
like,
kick you in the
so,
chest.
so how do you get through airport security?
I have a. That is a good question. I have a card that is from the company that made it, and it has like the ID number of it
Yeah.
and my name, and
That's
I'm
kinda
like,
cool.
I just have a medical device. I mean, not even like airports, like going to Braves games, I've had to do it, and they're like,
Sir,
looking over
what
it. I'm
you
like,
at?
I promise.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's just
insane.
I'm just used to it now. It's just a part of it. I'm just have to be like, look, I got a device in me. Sorry, guys.
So from when you got up to Emory, or when the whole thing happened, to when they let you go home, how long was the whole process?
So December 8th is on. I think it was exactly 2 weeks.
Okay.
From when it happened to the day I left. I think it was Saturday to two more Saturdays, and that was probably I think it was a little less than a week before Christmas.
Yeah.
Which is nice. Like our goal was just to try to get home before Christmas.
Yeah.
Right.
And at first it
It's a good
looked
Christmas present.
yeah, at first it looked really good, and then the surgery to put in my defibrillator took like 3 days longer. So I was just like laying. That was bad, dude. I had like to have a surgery like this, like you have to. I don't know what the term is called, but you can't eat for like 12 hours before. And so my surgery was in the morning. So like from like 8 p.m.
Oh, I think I know about that because the anesthesia will make
Yeah,
you throw up.
yeah. So like from like 8 p.m. the night before to my surgery the next morning, I couldn't eat or drink. And a person who like hasn't ate or drank in 2 weeks, I'm like, dude, let me
hungry.
eat something,
Yeah.
man. Especially when like I can't really sleep at night, so I'm awake, and so all I'm thinking about is food.
Yeah.
And I had to do that for like 3 days in a row. So like they would come in at like noon and be like, "We can't do your surgery today. Like it's been pushed back to tomorrow." So I'd like eat as much as I can, and then from 8 p.m. to the next day, again I couldn't eat, and so it was like, I'm dying, man.
That's insane, dude.
But it was good. It was fine though. So
Well, I'm glad you're here and you're able to tell your story.
Yeah,
on,
for
sure.
It's been cool telling it. There's different like I've tried to just keep the main thing, and not try to change around obviously too much.
Yeah.
But trying to get the normal gist out of it. But
Yeah.
it's been cool, and it's been weird just because like I said prior to this, I didn't like experience it. So
Yeah.
and I've talked about that to you and other people. And it was like, how am I supposed to tell a story that I didn't actually like? Actually go through. Yeah. I was just kind of laying there, and I was like, I've always told people like my mom and my sisters and my dad could tell the story better than me, and they could, they really could. Obviously, it wouldn't have I don't think it'd have the same effect,
Right.
For sure. Yeah.
But yeah, that's been tough for sure. It's
Yeah.
like, how am I supposed to tell this if I don't know what happened?
Yeah.
But,
Well, this is now my third time hearing your
it?
story. Yeah.
Okay.
Does it get better every time?
It does. It gets better. Seriously, it does not get old.
Well, I was trying to be a
hearing.
little more descriptive for the show.
Yeah.
No,
For sure.
No, I gotta give them all the deets.
Yeah.
All the juicy deets.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing.
sure.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. Love you.
Yeah. I love you
Maybe
guys.
next time you come on, we can talk about like sports or something. Maybe
Dude.
not something so serious.
I can't have a time limit for sports, man. Sports will go hours. I don't know if we need to do that.
Might not be the best idea, but I think that's it.
Yeah.
That's all,
Is
the
it?
question, that's all the question I had, and kind of running out of time.
Yeah, for
We're
sure.
good.
But yeah, that's incredible story.
Joe, what was your? I know we don't have much time. What were your thoughts on it?
I'll say real quick. I'd say it's pretty incredible that you were kind of faced with your mortality at 23.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of people think young people just think we're invincible because we do. We do think we're invincible.
Right,
You know?
right.
And then has that sort of just real quick 30 seconds, has that sort of changed how you live life?
Oh yeah. I mean,
I bet.
the being from going every day to the gym and like, oh my gosh, I can push myself to as hard as I want, to now I'm like, dude, do I even want to go to the gym today? And it's like, if I go, I know I'm going to be out of breath in 5 seconds. And like, I've talked to some athletes about like, dude, your physical self can be taken away from the snap of fingers, and like, and D1 professional athletes, they know that, like ACL tears, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But from somebody that's like, no, like I thought I was in the clear. I've always done sports and like and intense things, but like literally from somebody that doesn't have any history of heart condition, anything like that. Everything was taken away with a snap of a finger, and you cannot take that for granted. And how like at 23, would I have left behind what I would have wanted to leave behind? Like in my story, the person I've always thought of myself as the person that like my parents have always wanted me to be, that kind of stuff. Like, have I reached that mark at 23? And I don't know that I have. And so it's like, that's scary, man. It's like, oh my gosh, like if I was to die at 23, I just don't think I would have done everything that everything that people would have thought I would have been able to accomplish. I would have thought I'd be able to accomplish that, the Lord had in store for me, all that kind of stuff. And that's hard to take in at 23 when you think you're invincible, like you said.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
Yeah.
That's real good. Once
So
again,
the lesson is make every day count, right?
gosh.
for
make
sure.
it count.
Yeah.
Evan and I are about to go on a run. His heart's gonna hold up.
Oh my! How you gonna tell them that?
I'm just kidding. No, we hope y'all enjoyed the episode. Thanks for
sure.
coming on, Evan.